Today, I'm playing Dwarf Fortress. I've never really touched it before because even though I'm a fan of games that have bad graphics, its graphics were the most unappealing thing I've ever seen. Now, I have a strong imagination, but my god, like, look at this shit. Yuck. Oh no, a scary symbol. I'm getting stupid. Now that the Steam version is out, I wanted to give it a go. I like RimWorld quite a bit, so I figured let's torture myself and play a game that has mechanics deeper than the bass from the Inception horn. Now, I'll start off like everybody else. World creation. Now, I don't know anything about this game at all, so I figured I would make it the easiest I could for me. Now, I did start a game before, but I don't understand water mechanics, because nobody understands water mechanics. Now, rather than being a pussy and looking up tutorials, I figured I would just pick the spot with no water. Dwarves work better under the influence of booze anyways. In fact, I had a few dwarf children who would not get through the day or any work done without drinking, just like my stepdad. So I pick a spot that had a little water, but somehow it has a river through it. Again, water, how the hell does it work? And I started digging right away. I mean, that's how I win the game, right? Dig everything I can. I don't think there's a real winning in this game. I think it's just a form of like mindless indulgence where you game to game rather than game to win. Well, we gamers really hate ourselves, don't we? Anyways, I decided naming conventions are important until they aren't. I decided to name all my people things that I feel like are relevant to them, along with job descriptions. It's very important to know who they are and what they do. After I name my dwarves, I check on how my holes are doing, and they seem to be digging them out quite slowly, and I realize it's chalk. I have no idea why it's so slow. The chalk used to be in the classroom all the time. I will admit I've eaten a few pieces before. Maybe it's a dwarf thing or like a crippling alcohol addiction. I noticed one of my dogs has a tendency towards violence, just like my stepdad, and he attacks an otter? Somehow dogs' bites are so strong that it makes the otter lose all of its teeth. Maybe it's a defense mechanism in this game that animals have, like that frog that uses bones as like weapons. But unlike the frog, maybe this whole teeth thing is that you just become so disgusted that you leave the fight entirely. Disgusting! Like imagine if one of the people who asked you for money outside your local 7-Eleven had the ability to make their teeth fall out on command. Now, I wouldn't give them money, but I'd be absolutely fucking disgusted. I also noticed that I have an elephant, and I think that's kind of badass, so I'll give him a Pokemon-like name because I'm going to use him to kill other animals. Elephants are massive as hell, and I feel like they're going to be overpowered. I believe I nailed the Pokemon naming convention here. Please clap. Now, you can make fun of my layout, and you'd be right to do so, but I'm going to use the space that's here to store all my dwarf shit. I assume there's going to be a lot of items in this game because of poking around in the menus. The amount of stuff is actually disgusting and terribly confusing. But I will enjoy my suffering, just like my stepdad. I decide these poor fucks might want some sleep. Now, they will sleep on the ground like the filthy little fucking animals they are, but I'm not entirely cruel. I know that sleeping on a bed always gave me nightmares, so I hope that there's a mechanic in here for unresolved trauma that will haunt them in their sleep. It will feed their rage and their digging will be better because of it. I set up a fisher dwarf, not a fisher man.
Excuse me, it's ma'am!
Because I figured it would be a great source of food. I remember the biggest fish I ever caught might be able to feed like 10 of these height-restricted slave dwarfs. But somehow, my fisher dwarf, who I named after Stimpy, the best fishing YouTuber to have ever existed, decided it was a smart idea to grab as many mussel shells as he could and dump them into my stockpile. Now, I would punish him for that later, but I have no doubts he would love it. I noticed that at the shore of where we fish, there was an insane amount of these shells. We'll deal with them later. I decided my petite troglodytes might enjoy something to feed their alcohol addictions. As much as I enjoy the thought of them drinking with their bare hands or straight out of the bucket with their faces, I want them to fulfill their drinking addictions, so I made some cups they can drink out of more easily. In a way, this is more evil, so it's a win-win. I remembered from the alerts that traders are coming, so I built a trade depot to trade some of my stupid fucking mussel shells that Stimpy left everywhere. I was right away faced with a terrible thing. They're worth nothing. Perhaps they can be crafted into something valuable, but right now they're useless to me. There's a system in this game for nobles. Now, they're all worthless to me, but some of them do provide a benefit. Bookkeeper will keep an accurate count of all my stocks of all my inventory, and I would rather them do it than me. So I appoint one, and now my numbers are accurate. These little needy fucks want a place to call an office, so I polish some stone and put their office over some sand and cave shit. I give them a table and a chair because I want my counts to be accurate. I might not like them, but I know the importance of sitting at a table alone with your thoughts. Terrible stuff. I get an alert about some creatures stealing my stuff. I don't know where they found me or how, or where they came from, but I will make their entire race pay. My dwarves will kill and destroy everything they love. It appears they took nothing of value, but it's more about sending a message to my possible future enemies, which will be everybody I come into contact with, unless they're willing to provide me with gifts or trades. My militia commander tries to please me by attacking a lonely and defenseless pangolin. I once watched a YouTube video of how people will capture these little guys and harvest their shell off their back and shit, and then grind them into powders to like cure sicknesses or to give their soup a fun texture. I find it repulsive, but I'm an ignorant North American who doesn't enjoy animal suffering. Only dwarves. Like, does it taste good? Does it taste like sand? Where else would they get the name from? My dwarf Elton John decides he can't build something because there's a rock on top of it, which is ridiculous, and he should just move the fucking rock, stupid little fuck. During my busy time of making sure these bastards have a terrible sleep and are drinking booze all day, I missed the fact that one of my dwarven children were possessed by some deity or something. Even upon noticing it, I chose to ignore it. I am the only god here. Sabrina? Anyways, they go absolutely berserk from this and get themselves killed by another dwarf. To my confusion, rather than knocking them out or disabling, my dwarfs fucking absolutely mutilated the body of a dwarven child. This makes me feel like a proud father. No weaknesses. Weakness is death. After seeing a mutilated child where they all work every day, they decided that they needed some sort of altar to worship gods. I'll allow it because I find it funny, and that they have no idea that I'm pulling all of the strings. It worked like a charm, and they are already praying for safety from me. After being absolutely lost on how to farm, because I needed more booze, I did the only thing I could do to learn how to farm. I could go read a long post from some Reddit crawler, but I much prefer to support YouTubers. Subscribe to me, by the way. It'll give you a brief moment of serotonin. I promise. Both these guys, Blind and Further Reading, make awesome tutorials. Go watch them, you pussies. A human who was staying at my bar asked me to stay in my fortress, and I agreed. However, there will have to be some changes. Because water's an absolutely lost concept on me. I thought one of my dwarves got themselves stuck behind a well, but it turns out they didn't, and I was incredibly disappointed at this. One of the traders came around, but this time it came with a diplomacy pop-up. I don't care for politics, so I just clicked through it. Dwarves don't care about politics. They care about dirt and praying to save themselves from me. I also decided that I'd make these guys individual rooms rather than all sharing one group sleeping area. I figured it would be more frightening for the children to hear the screams of other suffering night terrors with nobody around. They also require rooms, so I see this as a win-win. But if they ever screw around, I will lock them in there until they starve to death. Somehow, my population started to grow, and I decided only my original group would be blessed with me providing names to them, but we will get to naming others later. I noticed one of my dwarfs got possessed or whatever again, but this time they just started working, so I was absolutely okay with it. I made some traps to capture small animals for meat. Now, for whatever reason, my dwarfs really like capturing birds. Now, I absolutely fucking love birds, so I saw this as an exceptional sign. Nobody claimed them as pets, and they just kind of disappeared on their own down the road, though. Perhaps they freed them? I like to think that they didn't die in their cages. Now, to go back to the growing problem, it keeps happening. My fortress keeps growing. I don't know where or how these other dwarves heard about my fortress, but they absolutely love it. Now, I believe it's a me thing, and that they came here because they want to devote themselves to the one true envy religion, but I end up making bedrooms for all these dwarves, and I'm trying to make sure that I have enough food and liquor for all of them. Now, I do have wells, but they only seem to use them to clean themselves. I wish I knew a way to extract blood from things so I could cover my dwarves in the blood, or the blood of the dwarven children they brutally mutilate, but I don't know if that's a mechanic in this game. I forgot to give a grave or whatever to that stupid child that my dwarf brutally tore apart, and that little fucker came back to haunt me. He ended up killing an original dwarf, The Rock. He did die, but I guess that kid went to go see Black Adam and was more disappointed than their imaginary father never coming back. I was shocked to know that there are ghosts in this game, but I'm not looking forward to putting that kid to rest. I just dumped his bones in the garbage pile because that's all these dwarves are to me. Trash. Now I noticed that I had an unhappy dwarf. But I don't tolerate anger directed towards me or my near-perfect colony of drunken short mountain folk. So I gave this child a stupid name fitting of them. Going forward, anytime a dwarf is unhappy, rather than feeling amazing because they're under my watch, I will name them something ridiculous, as I take offense to the open disdain of my fortress, and everybody will call them those names forever. Now, it just so happens this dwarf doesn't like art and has a poor memory, so I couldn't care less for them. After naming the appropriately named Karen child, I was being attacked by goblins, which I also had no idea were in the game, so I brutally ripped them apart slowly. I made sure to use the most untrained people to make a squad, so they didn't know how to properly use a weapon first, dragging on the suffering for them. I imagine it being like being attacked with a butter knife. It could kill somebody, but my god, would that absolutely suck. But I'll wrap it up there. If you guys do like the video, please let me know. I have about 12 more hours of footage for this colony, and it gets pretty insane. If I can get enough likes or comments, I'll follow up, maybe even make a series out of this fortress, because it's been pretty fun so far. This game is ridiculously addicting if you like sim games. I couldn't recommend it more. But again, thanks for watching, gang. Bye-bye.